The chimp changed my life. From that moment on, my life went haywire. Don't quit, don't ever quit. Persistence beats resistance. To achieve success in life, you must fail. And we looked down and it rolled, and as it stopped, it was a head inside a helmet. When I was in Iraq and I was being shot at, I was going 140 k's an hour. I was driving the car, I had to shoot. If I didn't have a controlled pattern of breathing in that moment, I'd have lost it. But that's recalibration.
Okay, so early days, you grew up local to here actually.
Yeah.
What was that childhood like, the early days?
You know what, I can't, because of a traumatic experience I had at 10 years old, I can't remember much at all pre-10 years old. But for me, I was just like any average kid. But then I had a crazy experience. It was a boiling hot day, and we had a knock on the door, and it was my brother's best mate, James, and he wanted to know if we wanted to go swimming, and off we went. And we're just crossing the River Trent across the bridge, and we saw the big top setting up in Burn-on-Trent. And we walked into the big tent, and I was drawn to this area of the other side of the tent where I could see some light sort of partially coming through the door. And I walked over to it, and as soon as I opened the door, the sunlight hit me in the face, blurred my vision. And then all of a sudden, when my vision cleared, I saw something that was amazing, something that just had me in a semi-state of shock, and that was a baby chimp was sat on the floor, probably about 10, 15 meters in front of me. So I moved over to it cautiously, looked down at this beautiful little chimp, and it stared at me with these big brown eyes, and it was a weird moment. It was surreal, you know, we connected. And it seemed like it was going on forever, but it only lasted a few seconds. And all of a sudden, that serenity, the serenity of that moment was broken like a fighter jet cutting through the sky when I heard the roar of something. And I'll never forget that roar. I can still hear that roar to this day. As I looked into the background, there were some shadows and something was moving, and it roared again. All of a sudden, those shadows turned into what was a very big chimp, especially compared to the baby chimp, especially compared to the size of me as a 10-year-old boy. And it was making its way towards me at Mach 10, doing the whole sideways chimp thing. And it was roaring, you know, it was absolutely ferocious. It wanted to do one thing, and that was to kill me and protect its baby. And at that point, I was like a deer in the headlights, but I thought, shit, I've got to move. And as I thought that, this chimp pounced straight through the air. It must have been about 20 foot, straight over the baby chimp. And all of a sudden, the blue sky turned to black, and this thing landed on top of me, pinned me to the floor, and started going about me, just basically trying to kill me. And it was like a drummer in a rock band. It was smashing down its fists onto my chest. The first one winded me, knocked everything out of me, and then it started trying to kill me. And at one point I looked up, and I knew that if I didn't do something, I was going to die. And then I saw blood. There was blood flying around. It wasn't the chimp's blood, it was mine. And it was in that moment, it wasn't something I thought about, but I reacted, fight or flight, and I reacted. And I managed to dislodge the chimp from my chest. It gave me probably about a couple of inches just to pull my knee up to my chest, smashed it in the chimp's chest with my foot, full force, and it knocked it a couple of feet away. That gave me just enough space just to scurry away, and then this chimp got up and it came on its final attack to kill me. And just as it got to me, the chain caught its neck. And if it wasn't for that chain, I wouldn't be here today. And there I'm stood there, and I'm dripping with blood, marks all over me where it, you know, chewed me. As you can see, that's a large part missing, but half my arm was just hanging out. For me, that was my first break point. And that typifies the meaning behind break point. It was that moment where I had to step into the short-term discomfort for any long-term gain. The long-term gain was living that day. The short-term discomfort was taking the fight to the chimp. That's how people live their lives. They're not prepared to step into that discomfort, knowing that on the other side of that is the long-term gain. The way we're wired, and this is the way people operate basically, is everyone's taking short-term comfort, whether that's drugs, drink, relationships, job choices, all the choices they make knowing there's a level of comfort there. And if you want to achieve anything in life, if you want to achieve success at work, success in any aspect of your life, you need to take short-term discomfort for long-term gain. It doesn't need to be about the big stuff. You know, it doesn't need to be about these life-threatening situations. We're faced with this day in, day out. You know, everything we do in life is about taking the short-term discomfort, you know, and that whether that's sending an extra email, staying a bit longer at work, whatever it is, it's like also let's relate it to physical exercise or something. If you want to achieve a goal, let's say you want to run the London Marathon next year, you know that every week you're going to have to do some training to achieve that. And that is about, yeah, you're not going to want to. By the time it comes to putting your trainers on, going out the door, your mind is going to tell you and enforce every reason why you shouldn't do it. And it's devious. It'll tell you to go and check your computer, do this, do that. And that's when we have to switch this off. You have to switch the mind off and follow the process. And that's something that I learned from an early age, but something that was further enforced in the military. You have to follow process. Follow your heart, switch off this, which is the program. And through that, you will achieve your aim. So really, if you can take care of the small stuff, you know, about doing everything, whether that's washing the dishes before you go to bed at night so you don't come down to a whole mess in the kitchen, whatever it is, making your bed in the morning, simple things. If you can do the simple things, the big stuff takes care of itself. The chimp changed my life. It changed that was a pivotal turning point of my life. From that moment on, my life went haywire. You know, I was chasing danger everywhere I could. I was void of consequence, void of emotion, and I just wanted to be on the edge of death. I wanted to be in the hardest fighting unit. You know, I didn't want to learn a trade. I wanted to be at war every day. I wanted to learn to be a soldier. I wanted to learn how to shoot weapons. I wanted to learn how to shoot the enemy. I wanted to be in conflict every day. And for me, the Marines were the people that were going to get me there. Special forces, they're carved in marble on a different planet and bought, you know, they're cut from a different cloth. I just thought I could never achieve that, but what I thought I could, although I doubted myself, I could achieve the Royal Marines, but I knew it was the toughest. I joined the Royal Marines and I got through 32 weeks of training. This is back in 1989 I joined up. From there I went straight over to Northern Ireland. That was probably my biggest shocker, to be quite honest, because when I joined there was a brochure, and in my brochure there was young men in uniform, looked pristine, and I just thought, God, all the chicks will love that. And then I saw another guy who was like windsurfing on a little holiday in the Caribbean or somewhere, and nothing prepared me for Ireland. That first night we got in, something had happened, a bomb had gone off, we were straight onto the helicopter, straight out, and the IRA had driven a truck bomb or a car bomb into a checkpoint. Totally obliterated the whole of the checkpoint. It was a 500-pound bomb. We were on a quick reaction force, so anything that happened in the region, we would jump on a helicopter, go straight out there, deal with it. There was just mayhem everywhere. And I remember he gathered everyone in and he booted something on the floor. He said, we need to see if we can find any more of these. And we looked down and it rolled, and as it stopped, it was a head inside a helmet. And that for me was like, that wasn't windsurfing on the beach. You know what I mean? That was like my first introduction as a young boy to war. That's where I crossed that bridge. And it was a bit of a shock, really. A hell of a shock, actually. I started to lose belief in myself. And the whole, just the thought that I could be in the Special Forces, I thought, nah, that's not, I'm not prepared to embark on that journey. I just didn't believe in myself enough. And I put my notice in to leave at that point. You know, I'd had enough. And I ended up bumping into my former officer from who I served with in Iraq. I saw him there and he said, "What are you up to?" I said, "Well, I'm leaving." And he said, "No, you're kidding me." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's not for me." And he says, "Mate," he said, "You've got something. I don't know what it is, but you've got something. I believe you've got what it takes for the Special Forces. If you leave now, you'll regret that for the rest of your life." And those words changed me straight away, you know, it inspired me. Someone gave me a bit of confidence when I was lacking it. And that was phenomenal. And within a month or 2 months, I was down at Hereford starting Special Forces selection. One of the youngest lads there. I don't get lost in the journey. It's always has been the vision of who and where I want to be. So whether that came to missions, you know, in Iraq or in Northern Ireland, it was about where I wanted to be. It was the visualization of what we wanted to create, the end result. And that, for me, was always the anchor that pulled me forward. So regardless of what happened in here, I've always had a mission, a goal. We were mission driven anyway. It was that mission, that goal that I would always focus on. Because if you don't have a focus on a goal or a mission, and this is generally in life, you will find that you end up becoming a victim of your circumstances. You get lost in the journey. Something happens, something major happens, and you become a victim of your circumstances because you've got nothing bigger pulling you through. So really, for me, it's always been about the fact that I visualize where I want to be when times are tough, when times are hard, when things are going really wrong. I visualize, I've got a vision of where I want to be, and it's that one thing that pulls me through, and I don't get bogged down in the situation. People can take doubt one of two ways. You know, some people get delivered doubt from someone else, and that absolutely makes them crumble. They stop chasing their dreams. They start believing the doubt expressed from someone else. For me, it works differently. And as soon as I hear that, it gives me more energy to prove them wrong. But it's just how you frame it. It's the same with so many things. You know, some people, if you allow that self-doubt to ruin your dreams, you're never going to get anywhere in life. But the thing is, as long as you're passionate enough, as long as you're coming from the heart and not from the head, and your motivation is pure passion for what you believe in, no one can stop you. You can't just be physically strong and expect to do anything. You've got to have the mental drive to be able to get you to it. So really, even from the outset, you have to have a high level of physical ability, but you also have to have a mindset that allows you to endure long periods of discomfort without taking the easy way out. And that all comes down to the mind. So really, selection is, initially it's a thrash up and down the mountains in Wales. And then once you're past that, I mean, that is heavy packs, miles and miles and miles each day, doing, you know, increasing the mileage. Once you pass that, you then go out to the jungles, so you learn how to live in the jungle for 6 weeks. And then the final thing, you do your demolitions, you do your communications. Final session or final phase is an escape innovation across the Welsh mountains, which is then culminates with you being captured and then going through resistance to interrogation, questioning for 36 hours, which is extremely horrendous. On the Brecon Beacons, I came down the slate track, massive pack on my back. I was trying to beat the guy in front. I was smashing the times. And as I came down, I stepped on a slate that slid under my foot, and my foot went 90 degrees, and I could feel all the tendons snap. Medics took my boot off, and as soon as they took the boot off, my leg just went, just came out. I can remember seeing the training team, one of the training team, walk past, and he just went to the other guys, he went, finished. Those words echoed. Again, if you don't do it, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. And that night I got called in front of the training officer. You know, I was still cracking on. I was strapped it up and all that. I was in a great deal of pain. That night I got called in front of the training officer, said, I want to take you off the course. And I went, why? He said, because with that leg you're going to fail. And I stood there and I just said, no, I'm not doing it. It was now or never. And anyway, he said, right, well, it's in your own hands then. Finally let me out of the office. And then the next day, honestly, it was like horrendous. I had this strapped up I was going across the mountains in Wales and I was actually in tears getting the times, but I managed to get the times. But, initially, again, it was that short-term discomfort for long-term gain. I wasn't prepared to take the short-term comfort. But it was that one thing that got me through then. And then I actually completed that course all the way through to the end, which is one of 7. You've got to try and channel that energy. The more you focus on the foot, the more you think about the foot, the more you're going to be consumed by the pain of it. And every time I spent time just focusing, allowed my mind to go towards the pain, you get consumed by the pain. It's trying to tell you to stop. So it's all about disengaging that energy and pushing it somewhere else. But that was a constant battle. So I did 11 years total, so I was 5 years in the Royal Marines and then 6 years in the Special Forces. For me, there wasn't enough of it. There was, we'd have bits and bobs here and there, and that was just the norm. But for me, I wanted to be at the coalface every day. That's what I thought was missing. But I knew there was something missing. There was something missing that I didn't feel complete. And for someone that, if I could have looked at that as a kid before I even joined, I'd be like, that'd be everything for me. And a lot of people do think that. Joining the Special Forces would be everything. If I could do that, that would tick every box and I would be totally happy. I'd never want to leave. But I got there and it wasn't like that. There was something missing. This is where people get it so wrong. We are all chasing an image. I was chasing an image of a Special Forces soldier and how that would look, and I was forgetting the one fundamental thing that is so far more important than that, and that's a feeling. It should be the feeling you're chasing, not the image. People want the perfect house, the perfect job, all this, that, and the other, the perfect marriage, or whatever it is. But that's an image in your head. It doesn't mean that when you get there, you're going to feel that same passion for it. We all know, everyone knows that a lot of the time you have this visualization of how something might be, whether that's going out for the night, going to your favorite club or whatever, and it's always totally different when you get there. You know what I mean? So if you get too attached to the image of what you want, you're going to end up being disappointed when you get there. But for me, I hadn't found my purpose at that point. And I didn't know anything about purpose at that point. I didn't go, I haven't found my purpose. It's just something that wasn't connecting. And for me, something was missing. And I didn't know what it was. And I thought I was having mental health problems. I thought, there's something wrong with you. If you can't enjoy this, what you're doing, jumping out of planes at night, which is, parachuting through the sky in the dark, skydiving, and all these things I was doing was amazing. Why wasn't I enjoying that? I've always wanted to create my own path, and it's something I still do to this day, because we're so trained. I don't want to follow someone's footsteps. I want to create footprints. That's with everything I do. So, it was about redefining myself, recreating something new. So for me, it was about learning about business and this, that, and the other. And I thought that would be the security industry. So I started my own things. I started my own security company, and providing people for VIP security and stuff in London. And then the Iraq War kicked off. And then for me, although I said I'd never gone to do that, the money was phenomenal. And especially after coming off a military wage. But the thing is, you get drawn to the money. It was all about the money. For me, it's money, money, money. I was driven by money because my complete lack of it all my life. You know what I mean? That was the drive. And now, looking back now, I call that fool's gold, because it's fools. You're a fool for chasing the dollar. And we were running these big projects. We turned up with a small infrastructure of ex-special forces. Only a few of us, and before long we'd recruited an army of 2,000 Iraqis, and we were training them in bodyguard skills, weapon skills. It was just crazy. The Americans were just flooding the place with US dollars. I was down watching like $1 million stacks coming off there, which they were just flooding into the communities. The big American green-eyed machine had moved in, and it was just everyone was just fighting for a dollar. You know what? When it comes to humans, we don't even know our true power. It's been so hidden from us by social programming, education, that we don't know our true power. And we have got so much. Every person on this planet has a gift. Everyone has the same skills. Everyone has the ability to create the lifestyle that they want. And that amazing gift has been taken away from us, because we've been programmed socially, through education, everything. You know, we've lost our power. The thing is, look, if I want to pass an exam, a lot of people, the way we're wired, and this comes down to evolution because we're always looking for the negatives. We all know that once you create an idea in your head, we always look for things that are going to go wrong. We don't sit there and focus about how great it's going to be when we get that. Whether that's starting a new business, relationship, whatever it is, whether it's taking your exams, you always think about the panic of not passing, the panic of what could go wrong, and that's what we end up visualizing. You know what I mean? And it's about just changing that energy to be more positive. So really, the thing is with this, you'll get so many people that disbelieve and will never engage in it. But when they do it once, they only need a little taste. And once they've got a little taste to know that this stuff really does work, that will change their life forever. You know, you guys must know yourself that happens. You know, once you get a taste that this stuff works, it's contagious, like you wouldn't believe. Let's try and relate this to people taking exams, for instance, or something like that. You know, if you're going to sit there and think, you know, about how much the study is getting you down, how much you hate doing what you're doing, the more you focus in that, like I said to you before, you know, you're not focusing on your goal. You're not focusing on something different that pulls you out of that situation. So you're lost in your circumstances of that moment. You become a victim of them. A lot of times you have big, ballsy goals, and they should always be ballsy. It should be something that you doubt your ability to achieve. But the thing is, you should have mini goals. You know what I mean? A big goal should always, you never have a goal that you know you can achieve. You have a goal that scares the shit out of you. You should always have that. But the goal must be able to be broken down into small chunks. So really it's about, when you're going through that hard stuff, it's about creating a small, short-term goal that gets you from moment to moment to moment. But it's that whole internal message. And if you sit there and you're studying for an exam or something like that, and you're focusing on how shit this is and how much time it's taken and how you're not enjoying it, you won't pass it. At the end of the day, you've got to define what your purpose is. And the problem is, when you're young and you haven't had many experiences in life, that means that you need to get out there and stop throwing yourself into loads of different experiences, because you need to start defining what really makes you tick. So it's about defining your purpose. Initially, you've really got to step into the short-term discomfort for the long-term gain and start doing things in life. You need to define your purpose. What is your purpose in life? You know, once you do that, you define, you know, going back over history, where have I felt really good about myself? What have I enjoyed most? And then you will start to define your purpose. So that really all comes down to purpose. I mean, for me, I didn't find my purpose until 2011. You know, and that was when I was rescuing the kids from child prostitution and slavery in Thailand, and I didn't know the gift that would give me. When I actually saw these kids then go to the orphanage, and then a week later, or a couple of weeks later, you're seeing these kids, you know, very young kids walking down the street with a school uniform on and a satchel. And only weeks before, they were about to be sold into some brothel. That is rewarding. Everyone will have a passion or a desire to be something. You know what I mean? And whether that's someone that wants to travel a lot, whether that's someone that wants to be in business, you've got to start pushing the boat out and start experiencing with things. You know what I mean? So you've really got to push the boat out, and some experiences you're not going to enjoy. But you start noting down the things you do enjoy, and before you know it, you can define a purpose of where you're supposed to be and what floats your boat. You know, it's like failure in life. I mean, my book, you know, like Breakpoint, is about failure. It's not about success. But for me, failure is growth. You know, as long as you look at failure as a milestone of growth and what did you learn from it and how did you move forward from that, that to me is growth. It's not failure. The last thing I will ever do is fake perfection. I want to keep making mistakes all my life because I know I'm working hard when I do that. So really, my first book gave me the foundation to be able to write my second book, which really does push into the personal development space. And that is Battle Ready. Battle Ready is the process that I used when I came back. When I did the Thailand operation, I came back, I'd fallen apart. My life was is a real mess. My mental state was horrendous. And it was how Battle Ready is about the process that I followed to get myself out of that. When you adjust mental health to mental wealth, that's the moment you stop throwing the line out of that dark hole and start pulling yourself out of it. And that really, that goes back to everything I've said about having a goal. That's about creating a goal that is not based on your current circumstances. Don't focus on where you are, focus on where you want to be. It's about casting a stone to that and then following that stone. So really, Battle Ready is the process that I've followed. When I got back to the UK finally in 2014 and my life had fallen apart, I came back to the UK with no money, no nothing. But I came back with a vision, and that was the vision to create a globally identified brand recognized for the positive growth and development of others. And that was Breakpoint. And that was my company. And that was the most powerful thing I came back with, worth more than any money in the bank. And for 2 months, I isolated myself on my own in a house. And I went through mental processes day in, day out. I cut away the drugs, I cut away the alcohol. I needed a mindset based in clarity, not confusion. And I started putting in the visualization because I learned that in Iraq. So I visualized every day. I wrote a contract to myself of where I wanted to be. I signed it, and I used to repeat that to myself every day. Every day I used to repeat that. I created goals, wrote them down, and I spent every day, it was like a mindset boot camp, doing everything, listening to podcasts, personal development podcasts, everything. It did get to the point, I was asking, show me a sign. I was thinking that thing in Iraq didn't mean anything, it was just a coincidence. There's no message there. I was starting to feel negative. And I had to fight those thoughts and emotions. And, I used to sit there visualizing every day about me and Foxy being on the stage and talking about our experiences and how people then could benefit from that experience, and then how we would use that to employ veterans suffering with PTSD, how we could help disadvantaged kids. And I saw it, I saw the vision of me and Foxy on a stage, loads of people there, big audience, loving what we said. And then it was all coming to, I was starting to doubt myself in the end. It was getting on, I was having to fight that doubt. That seed of doubt was in. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, Foxy phoned me and he said, that idea we've got for Breakpoint? He said, would you consider doing that on TV? And that's how it started. See, when you've got years and years of social programming from school, everything, and we end up, the older we get, we end up becoming subject to repeat habit loops. And that comes back to, like I said before, about evolution. It just wants us to repeat what we did yesterday and the day before, because it's kept us alive till today. So we are creatures, we embrace habit. So really, if you want to change that, you have to make your today a yesterday to be proud of. You know what I mean? A yesterday how you want your future to be. So for me, it was about, you have to change the blueprint. So the contract for me, it was an official document, which makes it feel important. And it was, for me, every morning, as I read out that contract, it was my name, and I filled in my name. By this day, I will have my own business called Breakpoint. I put a date. It's so important you put a date on there. Otherwise, as far as the universe is concerned, 1 million years is nothing. It's just another way of setting a goal. And then a few bullet points on there about, I know I'll have doubts, but I have support, I have a vision, I have passion. And then I signed it with the date on the bottom. And it was a document just for me to go through every day. And then go to the mirror. People try this, right? You come up with an idea, who you want to be. You write that down, and then you go and tell yourself in the mirror. Read it out to yourself. Everyone will go, I feel like an idiot, because that's your ego. But I tell you now, if you can't tell yourself what you want, how can you expect to achieve it? So as soon as you cross that bridge and get over your ego and forget the 1,000-person audience that isn't there, that changes everything. And that, for me, was changing that, rewriting the blueprint. And this is not something you have to keep on doing. I'm now naturally that way, so I just have to think things. But initially, when you have to change your processes and get into some kind of disciplined goal setting, it's very clunky. You have to go through these very regimented processes like I did. The majority of people out there don't think they have any power. They don't understand the power that we have. The power that we have to create exactly what we want. Look at, Roger Bannister? Before he did the 4-minute mile, everyone said it couldn't be done. Everyone said, no, they can't do that. As soon as he broke it, everyone broke it afterwards. Why is that? Because until they knew that a human could break that, their minds couldn't allow it to be conceived. And that just makes you understand that, it's all locked in here. People just don't understand that. We're socially programmed to create limitations. And we will only actually go outside of those limitations once we know someone else can achieve it. And it's been proved. A lot of people will only want will actually state goals only if they know they can achieve them, because they're scared of looking stupid. So much ego plays in here. People are ruled by their egos, and it's holding them back from their true potential. Don't allow their doubt to be contagious. You know what I mean? There's two ways you can go. You can go left and right on that one. Doubt can allow them to almost let that seed of doubt be contagious. But just reframe that and think, I'm going to prove you wrong. Doubters, feel sorry for them. At the end of the day, allow that to give you power. Don't quit, don't ever quit. Persistence beats resistance. Success is a series of failures. So people that quit, the only people that fail are people that quit. If that stops you from achieving your goals, then you have failed. You're embracing failure. To achieve success in life, you must fail and keep on failing. And always, when you start always know that if you're failing throughout your life, as long as you're not repeating the same failures, that you're growing at the same time. The hard path is the only path. At the end of the day, you have to push through that short-term discomfort for any long-term gain, and that is the ethos of Breakpoint. But nothing comes easy. A lot of people say that there were so many obstacles in the path. The obstacles are the path. It's a case of just pushing through that short-term discomfort. Embrace the discomfort, that's where you grow. Ego is the one thing that's going to hold you back from anything. One thing you've got to learn to be is an emotional observer. And that's not just with ego, that's with everything. That's aggression, that's with every kind of emotion, that's with fear. And once you learn to observe your emotions, such as ego, I'm not egoless. We've all got ego. It serves a purpose in some circumstances. But I know through any situation, I know when ego's coming in, I can stop it before it gets there. You imagine a fast-flowing stream. When you're consumed by your emotions, you're in that fast-flowing stream. When you become an observer of your emotions, you're stood on the side of the riverbank choosing which emotions you want to align with. But really, and the way to do that, because that can sound quite confusing, is it's about breathe, recalibrate, deliver, okay? And that is not taking action straight away on instinct, straight away all the time. It's about, in a pressured situation, cortisol increases in our system, which causes confusion. The only way you can deal with that is through breathing, okay? To lower cortisol, deep breaths allow clarity and not confusion, and then you can make the right decisions. But saying that, you have to do that within 5 seconds. Typically in a pressured situation, and they do teach this in special forces in some countries now, but breathe, it's all down to your breathing. What basically happens when we go into a pressured situation, that could be a negotiation in business, it can be being shot at, it can be being attacked by a monkey. Whatever it is, your breathing becomes erratic. It's your fight or flight response starting to take over, okay? But what happens through that is your cortisol level starts to increase, and that causes confusion. Our heads can only handle 5 to 9 pieces of information at any one time. In a stress situation, it's only 1 to 2. So really in that moment, by first of all controlling your breathing, you breathe, that allows that clarity of thought. You then focus only 1 to 2 things that matter at that moment in time. That's triaging the situation. So that's what we call recalibrate. Recalibrate is getting rid of things that don't matter. Like that situation I was in when I was in Iraq and I was being shot at, I was going 140 k's an hour. I was driving the car, I had to shoot, all that stuff going on. If I didn't have a controlled pattern of breathing in that moment, I'd have lost it. But that's recalibration. And then once you recalibrate and get rid of everything that doesn't matter, you're focused on what you need to do, that's when you deliver. So breathe, quick breaths, controlled breaths, recalibrate, focus on what you need to, and then deliver the action. Mindset is everything. It's mindfulness. And everyone's got to understand that, or everything happens in your physical world as a product of your mindset. You know, until you're mentally prepared, you're never physically ready. Once you've got yourself lined up spiritually, once you've created that bandwidth that is way away from fear, because fear doesn't allow for creativity, the opportunities are already there. Everything's already lined up. A lot of people say in life that, oh, well, you know, I can't wait for the opportunities to line up. They're already there. It's you that's got to line yourself up. And that's when you come from a place of belief, and when you're not living in a state of fear. And unfortunately, at the moment, it's amplified at the moment, fear is driving society. Through the news, through everything, fear is driving society. But once you disengage from that, I mean, I don't read any newspapers, I don't watch the news, I don't watch TV, but I'm very conscious about the content that goes into here. For me, meditation, again, people think, how can this guy from the Special Forces meditate? That's Glastonbury hippie stuff. Meditation for me is my focused attention at an intention. It's my moment for me to visualize, create calmness in here, and be able to visualize on what I want, okay? And once I learn to create that stillness of mind, it allows that clarity of vision to what I want. Our heads have 70,000 thoughts, probably more, going round each day. Now, if you don't focus on some things that you want out of that 70,000 thoughts, you're going to end up with a load of crap that you don't want. And that's the problem with people. They allow the 70,000 thoughts just to be like this washing machine of ideas, and they don't define what they want in life. So that's why they're basically just bouncing like a pinball from side to side, not knowing where they're going, and that's being decided for them. But it's just about creating clear vision and intent for what you want. And that, for me, that morning routine for me is a life changer. You know, it's where I set myself up for each and every day, and I dominate each and every day.
If you want to support projects like this in the future, please consider becoming a YouTube member at Mulligan Brothers. And also, you can check out some of our merch, like the hardest worker in the room, got the Mulligan Brothers t-shirt, and also we've just had another t-shirt drop called Heavy Metal, really cool design. All of them will be posted below. As always, have a blessed and productive day. Peace.